Alright, so there's been another PTR build that came out and has some more LA changes on it, some that we've already known about, some that we didn't. And I'm going to kind of go over them in this, and also some tier set bonus changes, both tier 20 and tier 21. So let's look into these changes. So first off, there's been some spell changes. Chain Lightning, as mentioned previously, the Maelstrom nerf that was in place has gone back to how it is currently. So we're back to how Chain Lightning generates 6 Maelstrom per hit instead of 4. They also undid half of the spell power, or the damage nerf to Chain Lightning. They nerfed it by, what was it, 12%? Basically, they made it from 150, or rather 160% spell power damage to 140. Now they put it back at 150. They buffed Frost Shock from 80% to 90%, which is around a 11% buff-ish. And then they also buffed Elemental Blast, 680% to 725%. Not a huge buff, but it's something. They said they would buff it to try and even it out, so hopefully we'll see how that goes. I think it probably is okay. And the Totem Mastery nerf that we talked about previously did end up going through. The overload chance on Chain Lightning and Lightning Bolt went from 10% down to 5%. Next we got an aura buff again. So a lot of people, I just want to clarify that people were saying that we got a 9% buff. That is not true. We already had 3% on live from a previous PTR. They never actually converted it to coefficients. It's still an aura. So seeing 9% is actually 6%, but last time I made a video, last PTR build, it was 3%, so now it's 6% increase on the PTR from live to all of our abilities, so that's pretty good. And then tier 20, this one, I don't even know what to say about this one. Tier 20, you know how I used to complain a lot because Fire Elemental cooldown was reduced by 3 seconds and Storm Elemental cooldown was reduced by 1.5 seconds and didn't make any sense? Yeah, now in 7.3, which is probably going to be about a couple weeks before not Tomb Gears, before the Argus raid comes out, where we're getting a new tier, they're changing it to reduce the cooldown of Storm Elemental by 2 seconds instead of 1.5 seconds. I'm not even going to talk about this one, that's just too confusing. Tier 20 2-piece, they added EQ and IF. Let's see. So originally it just only increased the damage of Earthshock. Now each casted Lava Burst increases the damage of your next Earthshock or Earthquake, or some great grammar. Earthshock or Earthquake, or the damage bonus of your next Ice Fury by 10%, stacking up to 3 times. I do not know about using Earthquake single target or anything yet. We haven't actually done enough testing to tell or talk about that yet. But if it does become a thing, I'll be sure to let you guys know. For now, we're just going to assume it's not going to become a thing. So, for one thing, this is going to be kind of useless on Earthquake over like 3 targets because you aren't using Lava Burst anymore. But it is going to be nice in actual raid situations where you are using single targets and then adds come out, because you may already have stacks, or you can like save stacks if you aren't overcapping Maelstrom too much or whatever. But Ice Fury, I was really hoping for more. The Ice Fury bonus, it is additive to the 400%, so it's very, very little. Like, a regular Frost Shock does 100% damage, this adds 400%. So that's 500% damage Frost Shock, this adds 30% to that. So it's a 530% damage Frost Shock, and it's really not, that's not very much. That doesn't really add much, but it's something. At least they're trying. They may tune this later. So one thing I quickly want to mention as well is that people are saying that we still got our Chain Lightning nerfed, and I just want to say that it was a 12% nerf, and then we got a 6% buff to all of our spells, and now it's only a 6% nerf, so it actually evens out as far as I'm aware, unless there's some crazy coefficient thing going on. That stuff gets confusing sometimes, but as far as I know, Chain Lightning damage should be exactly the same as it is on live on 7.3. And now, speaking of Chain Lightning, let's get kind of depressed real quick. Static Overload. This is another change on the PTR. Static Overload is going from a 10% chance to a 7% chance. And this is the one that has me really frustrated. This is actually the sole reason I didn't make this video a couple days ago, because I was just too like annoyed. I didn't want to like be too pissy about it, but basically they decided to nerf Static Overload and I'm trying to understand. Like, I get why they're nerfing Static Overload. It's overpowered when it procs, but the problem is our damage is very, very reliant on Static Overload, and nerfing its proc rate isn't the answer. What we've been, since it came out and it was alpha or beta or something, way before Legion came out, the forums for LE Shaman were just like a whole bunch of people saying, hey, Static Overload is kind of stupid. It really needs to be reworked into a higher proc chance and less damage or something along those lines, but this doesn't work. And then a year later, more than a year later, it was a year ago that Legion actually came out almost, they decided to just nerf it. And I just want to comment that's kind of funny about this. They're following this trend of if something buffs us, they have to nerf something too, and the mastery change buffed Static Overload damage because of the overload damage increase, so now they're nerfing it. But like, I get why they're nerfing it, it makes sense, but I don't like the way they decided to nerf it, because in the end our damage will probably be somewhat similar just because of the mastery change and everything. Maybe, I don't know, I haven't actually tested this. It could be worse, could be better. I don't imagine it'll be better, but it could be worse, could be the same-ish. But what this is really changing is the difference between the average Shaman and a lucky Shaman. Now the average Shaman is going to be the problem. Okay, I should clarify that when I say it could be even and all that, I'm talking about like sustained AoE, and in raids it's all about burst AoE almost all the time. So we have Stormkeeper and we have Chain Lightning, and that is our burst AoE with Static Overload, and we really rely on this to boost our damage in raids that have adds at all. So nerfing the proc chance was so not the way to do this, because now you're not very useful even more of the time. Like right now, if you get one Static Overload out of each Stormkeeper, for one thing you're pretty lucky, and two, you're like super useful. If you get one Static Overload, or 1 to 2 Static Overloads per fight, that's pretty much average, or on Stormkeepers rather, not just per fight, but on Stormkeepers per fight. That's pretty average if it's like a 5 or 6 minute fight. But now it's just gonna be even more rare, and I just don't understand why they decided to do this. Actually, I do understand. It's a lot easier to do this than to actually rework it. But I would rather have Static Overload just get completely removed. It's like completely just taken out, just gone, and then buff our Chain Lightning damage and make us more consistent with our capabilities of bursting or whatever. I don't know. I'm just kind of rambling at this point. I'm too frustrated to like think straight. So keep in mind that overall these changes are probably a good thing for us moving forward. Like the single target damage increase, it was going to be like somewhat, it was very small originally. But now we also have Frost Shock damage increase for Ice Fury potential, we also have Elemental Blast damage, and we have another 3% on top of it. So even if it's only a 3% increase, if you look at logs on like a boss like Sisters of the Moon, you could probably be tied with the Frosty K now for second to last, instead of being 3% behind. Memes aside, this direction they're going with the single target increases are something I like. They can keep nerfing our AoE as long as our single target steadily goes up with it. But it's a very slow process, and I'm hoping that it works out in the end. At this point, I've kind of said everything I can say. So yeah, I'll keep you guys posted. As I said, just because I'm not playing Elemental for progression right now does not mean I'm not still making content for it, and does not mean I'm not still wanting to play it and all that. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys next time.